of 9 and 10 Penance. I don't know if you can see it. We'll be doing a chapter reading tonight, but apparently the location I chose, all the geese were out. So here at the river, hopefully it's quiet enough. And I'll be reading again from my book, The Magic Paintbrush. And which I've been doing every night for a while now. And tonight's chapter we are on Off Valparaiso, a painting by Thomas Jacob Summerscales. And then just to recap where we left off, oh, here comes a goose. They're all coming. Where is he? There he is. Just to recap where I was last night, we had left off. Ethan Bourdon had his face painted into a Picasso of a mess. Oh, I might have to move. They might. This has happened before in this spot. Oh, geez, they're okay. You know what? I mean, they've come at me before. You know what, guys? I'm sorry. You guys aren't coming at. Ah, geez. We'll get to the chapter reading here in a second. As soon as I might just have to, oh shoot, here they come. Hi guys. Oh shoot, you see, you don't understand, there's like 20 of them moving this way. Yep, go right ahead there, goose. You are good, golden. Fly right on down, bring your herd. I will get to the chapter reading here in a second. Oh jeez. More of them. Well, there he goes. Oh no, they're gonna go around me. They're making it. They're making their way into the. There they go into the stream. I'll get to reading the chapter here in a second. Oh, you got it, bud. Geez, here come a bunch more. Well, we'll see, these two will jump in. But you can see, there he goes. And then over here, there's some more geese jumping into the river. Oh, nope, they're all coming this way. All right, you know what? I'm just gonna, anyways, to recap where I was last night. Ethan Bourdon, the man, he had his face painted into a Picasso of a mess, and he had outrun Botticelli. Geez. And so he had just found out that his old friend Rayburn had his face removed, and he's sitting in the cell next to Fragonard. And it looks like a giant herd of them are now, that's not part of the story, a giant herd of them are moving downstream here. Here they come, hopping on down. Not to get in your way, fellas. And I just don't want to get attacked again. All right, yeah. All right, I'll just start reading, and you guys can follow along while these beautiful geese here jump into the river. And then yeah, sorry, I did not expect this tonight, but that's what you get when you, hey guys, what's up? Ah, jeez. All right, most of you probably did not come here for a chapter reading, or more interested in the geese. Well, they're gonna hop down. You don't understand. Can you see them in the background? There's like a bunch of them. All right, I'm just gonna start reading from the chapter. And Ethan Bourdon says, the last time I saw Henry Rayburn, keep in mind his friend is now sitting in this cell, and he's just had his face removed, or that's what he found out, his friend's face has been completely painted away. And so he's reminiscing on the last time he saw Henry Rayburn. Yeah, boy. Yeah, they're all eyeing me down. If I have to move suddenly, I will. But here we go. The last time I saw him, the two of us were off Valparaiso. I suppose I should start from the beginning. I just left Tintoretta's home above Moroni's tailor shop and began on my walk to the Galleria. If I was to have Botticelli arrested, then I needed proof of what he had done to my father, so I could present it before the king. I was constantly heckled, ridiculed by the people I passed on the street. They laughed at me and called me mean names, but I was not a monster, at least not on the inside anymore. I stopped and fell to my knees in pitiful blue shame. I was feeling profoundly depressed and cheerless. There in a puddle in the street, I caught a glimpse of my face, what he had done with it. I stared in disbelief as the ripples washed over the reflection of my gruesome looks. The nature of my reality had been forever changed, my emotions off balance, teetering on the edge of reason. It invoked something within, producing something without. I'd manifested into a metaphysical figure, replaced with only the defects of my character. However I felt about it, what I saw is what I knew to be there all along. Are they, nope, they're on the edge. All right, I'll keep reading. No edge, no transparency, no real tangible truth. Just a question I began to ponder on. Was life imitating art, or was the art imitating me? I couldn't help but think of the life I once led, in the embellished snobbery of my new nose. One eye rose, whereas the other fell under the chalky velvet lining of my brow. My heart mourns tearfully a deep and rich shade of cobalt blue. The worst of it is when I blush. The pigments in my cheeks shine in an embarrassing rosy red hue. I wondered if the face I once wore was my disguise, and this is what was truly underneath, a narrow-minded collage of my tormented soul. I looked... Yeah, they're watching me. I looked into a window to see what was once layered deep, without the water distorting what had become of me. There was a sign in the windowsill with the king's insignia on it. It was a decree informing the fate of our aristocratic community. It was quite obvious an artist of the eclectic variety was the culprit behind all of this, and the king was furious. I don't blame him one bit, yet part of me felt he was overreacting. On the other hand, Botticelli placed a permanent mark on our kingdom. The uneven streets, the giant dead butterfly, the hazy mist of flowers fluttering freely about, not to mention the splotches of color splattered everywhere by that paint-breathing tattoo on his arm. It was all the people could talk about. They demanded swift justice be dealt at the guillotine. Hold on a second. Yeah, I know, geese. I'm gonna scooch back so they don't feel so terrified of me. I'm scooching back, geese. You guys can have your space. Okay, go ahead. Feel free. Jump. I'm gonna get over here and you guys can just jump in the river now. See? I'm at a safe distance. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. Did not expect this. Oh, I'll try and keep up with the accent. It's hard. Now they're going in the river now that I backed away. They demanded swift justice be dealt at the guillotine. This is what the decree said as I saw it on and read. Since the colorful events of the night before have left my kingdom in such a frantic state of emergency, I, King Mabuse, hereby put into effect the following laws. First and foremost, all painters, daydreamers, and aristocratic thinkers of this nature alike are hereby banished. I shall give you until 1 hour after the sun has risen to leave. Ships shall be waiting down by the docks to take you wherever you wish to go, so long as it is nowhere near my dominion. Second, all paints, shades, and hues, if not removed by this time, shall be commandeered and put to a flame, so I suggest you take them with you. Thirdly, anyone who shows even the slightest hint of an eccentric nature shall be promptly arrested without question and hanged the following day. Sincerely, King Maboose. Yep, they're all hopping in the river now. All because I moved. Well, you're welcome, guys. I'm going to keep reading. You guys hop on down in. What a terrible fate to befall upon our aristocratic community. No poets, no painters, no street babblers to provoke the mind into thought. To think what should become of a society without the free thinkers that make it a tolerable place to live. This, however, was my chance to finally catch him. I knew he would be leaving on one of those ships in the morning. That meant I only had a little time left as well to gather some things and leave, if the portrait of my father did not save my neck with the king. I rushed to the Galleria, hoping to find my father, only to discover Botticelli had ransacked the place. I thought to myself, I should have never given that man the time of day, and I should have never allowed him to sleep so comfortably in our backyard. I suppose now I have to consider it a lesson learned, and well learned at that, about those seeking a free meal at the end of their day. I searched everywhere for my father's portrait, but found nothing in return. I assumed Botticelli must have decided to take it with him to hold it against me. The only thing he left behind was his dirty rags. The stench was unbearable. Most of the paintings were tilted and covered in gobs of paint, much like my face. Then I noticed this work of art still hanging up amidst the chaos. It was a piece called Hope, done by a fellow named Watts. The painting was of a somber, blind woman strumming the strings of her harp. I never understood what it meant to the artist, but at that moment it meant something to me. I wiped the tears from my pitiful blue shame and decided I would find a way to defeat him. Yeah, they're still. Though I still had no idea how to combat against his evil magic. With the help of the only real friend I ever had, I was sure I would stand a chance. I just hoped old Rayburn could see that it was me behind the mask I must now wear. I showed up to his doorstep late in the evening. He thought I was a crazed lunatic at first, the way I rambled on. He actually threw me some day-old bread, as if I were a common peddler. Me, a Bourdon, searching for some scraps to gnaw on. Once he figured out who I was, he quickly rushed me inside. I told him everything that happened. He may not have believed a word of it, but I guess the colorful patchwork that makes up this face said it all. He offered his home for the night and promised he would stay by my side until we found a way to restore this Picasso of a mess and undo my father's fate. During our conversation, he told me something that gave me a newfound confidence we would bring that no-good charlatan to justice. Apparently, Rayburn had won up Botticelli without even realizing it. When he brought those magical bristles to him, he rather snidely told him to put it on my father's tab. This didn't sit well with old Rayburn, as you can imagine. So he took it upon himself to make a second brush for full payment of services rendered. The next morning we rushed off down by the docks to try and stop him. Just as we arrived, Botticelli climbed aboard a ship and cast off. We were told it was already filled to its capacity with great works of art and paint galore. I asked where the ship was headed. I was told somewhere near Valparaiso. I knew if we were ever going to catch him, we needed to secure a ship of our own with many sails and fast. There was only one left down by the docks worthy of its reputation. As we made our way to the last ship, I ran into the king and his daughter, Eleanor Siddell, the love of my life. They asked if I'd seen Bourdon or his son Ethan. I was told if I knew of their whereabouts, I'd be pardoned from the rulings of the decree. They didn't recognize me at all. In fact, Eleanor couldn't bear to look. Her eyes were somewhere else. Lawrence, that Finkelstein rat, he was there consoling her for her grief. I'll admit I was quite upset, but I really felt it was the right thing to do. To leave the love of my life and the king waiting down by the docks in search of something they would never find there anyways. Where was I? We met a man by the name of Summerscales who introduced himself as the captain. I thought that was rather obvious and unnecessary to mention. He was wearing the right attire, after all. He asked where we would like to set sail, since it was being paid for by the king. I pointed out across the long lay of the sea and told him not to lose sight of that ship at any cost. He asked if I had a vendetta with their captain, a stout and burly man by the name of Manet. I tried explaining to him how Botticelli had permanently scarred my face, but he didn't seem to care, said he'd sailed with men far uglier than me, and offered up his services without hesitation. Here, I'll just point it over here. There we go, that's a nice view. Personally, I think he was looking for an excuse to go on an adventure. That's how all the excuse me. That's how all the sailors of our kingdom acted, with chivalry and a chance to do battle at sea on a whim. I asked if this barnacle-infested mop bucket was up to the challenge. He slapped me on the back as he laughed boastfully in my face with a true seaman spirit. For I had stepped aboard the fastest clipper ship to ever sail the open seas. I replied, jolly good then, and asked he not spit in my face when he speaks. He then swiftly turned to his cabin boy, a man by the name of Turner, and told him to fasten the sails, hoist the goose-winged flying jib, and set the course at once for Manet's ship. We were off in a race, with a fair wind catching the sails and a newfound confidence in the salty air, that before the day was through, Botticelli would rue the day he ever painted my face into various shades and hues. Though I couldn't help but think, as we sailed away, of all I left behind. The girl I loved, a life I could have led, and a life I once knew. There's still a bunch of geese waiting to jump in. I can't plan these things. All right. Though the winds were fair, Manet's ship had the lead. It wasn't until the sun went down when we finally caught up to them. Rayburn and I went below to secure some paint as summer scales moved in for the kill. When we made it back up on deck, Botticelli had already struck his first blow with the stroke of yellow over the blueness of the ocean. I could barely make him out as he disappeared into a misty tunnel of chalky white smoke he created out of the clouds. I scourged at him with a fist, that coward, but it was too late. The yellow, oily hues from his palate unbound a strange current in the form of a green wave. It behaved like a wild, untamed animal. You could feel the sea shake and tremble. The wave slowly rose like a cat's paw, arching over the ship, ready to pounce at any given moment. When the fury-eyed beast reached the height of its summit, it bellowed a lunging scream, meow. That's when all hell broke loose. We were sucked right into the mouth of this foaming beast, clawing and scratching at the side of our vessel. The wave then came back around for a second turn, roaring with viscosity. Rayburn held steady, waiting for the opportune moment. When the trow went under and the crest bounced back, he struck it with the brush and broke it in two. The waves scattered across the ocean, emeralds and jades streaming into the Gulf, giving us a chance to go at it again. Oh, there's more coming to jump down. The scene reminded me of a piece that once hung in our galleria, The Sea Storm. And although the original artist never finished the painting, we commissioned another to finish where the other had left off. It was a fitting memory indeed for where Botticelli had left us in his dream. You can't really see him anymore, it's getting too dark. They're still jumping in. While we were fending against the vivacious curves of a coarse and rigid sea who had never known kindness or mercy, something unknown rammed into the side of the hull. Rayburn and I took a look overboard. I couldn't believe it. But there in the waters before us was a rather large tree torn up from the roots, no less. You would think, as great and vast and wide as the sea may appear to be, our captain, as great as he claimed to be, in his tales, would have avoided it. Rayburn was quick to action. He swiped the brush over its roots and steered it away. Moments later, the head of a monster, half beast, half tree, burst free from this oily mist. I tell you the truth, Fragonard, it was not just a mere sailor's dream. We were now fighting two monsters, a wild and raging sea and an unnatural abomination of the forest. The bloodthirsty tree roared in anger, its branches snarling like tentacles. The stars in the sky were blotted out by a canopy of foliage. Summerscales made a call to arms. Load the cannons with everything we've got and fire at will towards the belly of the bark. Turner and I loaded the cannons with bucket after bucket of paint and fired them right into the hollow of the oak. The tree gobbled them up and then spit them back out, splattering paint all over the ocean, enchanting this mystical sea with every diabolical hue known to mortal man. Lightning flashed in pyres of red and orange, spiking in violets and yellows. We were facing an onslaught of hues, caught in the crosswinds of a mighty hurricane of colors. The ship was swishing and swirling through mountain after mountain of oily waves. We trudged our way through as best we could. What a challenge it was, with Summerscales at the helm and Rayburn, a true draftsman of the sea with his knowledge of the color wheel. You know, you would never take the man for a painter until he seizes the brush and palette in his hands. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done without their bravery. When dawn approached, the serpent's pigments began to fade, but still, it put up a good fight, and so we continued to fight back. The brush, however, was no longer working in our defense. That's when we understood something about its magic. It only works at night. The only thing that truly did stop that horrid beast was daylight and a light mist of rain that fell over the ocean, washing away all the horrors Botticelli had unleashed. I warn you, however, young Fragonard, he has grown far more powerful since then. A light mist of rain will not stop his magic now, for it has become oil-based. With nothing but calm seas ahead, we sailed on to Valparaiso. Our captain said he would tell tales of this epic battle for years to come, letting people know of our courage and of our bravery and how we had survived what would become known as the greatest storm. It's a reference to book 2. Oh, there, yeah, you can't even see him anymore. When we approached the waters off here we are. Oh yeah, here it is. When we approached the waters off Valparaiso, Summerscales found Manet's ship floating unattended. There was a rainbow of colors bleeding from the ocean waters, as if a gashing wound had been opened up. It was so odd. I'd never seen anything like it. It gave me such an eerie feeling. The ship must have been carrying paintings of flowers, and there were so many of them. It was like a garden, eternally expanding in the sea. Turner pointed out a shadowy figure, a mere mirage image of a man trapped under the lapping waves of water lilies. He said it was Manet's cabin boy and younger brother Monet. He recognized him because of his beard and mustache. This mirage of a man, succumbed to such a horrific fate, told us of how his brother was lost at sea. Botticelli threw him overboard for trying to start a mutiny. With the stroke of his brush, he turned him and their crew into strange-looking fish for their actions of mutiny. He then painted himself into a bird with human hands and flew away. The poor soul then drifted into the abyss, as if Botticelli intended for him to only stay alive long enough to warn us what would happen if we continued to hunt him down. Summerscales and Turner offered up their services permanently to Rayburn and I for what Botticelli had done to their rivals. Turner took command of Manet's ship and Rayburn went with, in hopes that we might double our efforts. It looks like old Rayburn found him first and suffered the wrath of his artistic thoughts. Before we parted ways, he gave me the brush and told me to guard it with my life, which I did, and that is why I stand before you, young Aidan, prince and heir to the throne of the kingdom of Fragonard, in hopes that you will become our father's victors and end his reign of terror once and for all. And that was the end of his story and where mine truly began, young Stefan. There we go. Okay. That was the end of that chapter. And yeah, I guess this has certainly been an exciting night. Have all these, there's still geese here jumping into the river, by the way. Oh, they're having a great time. They're just kind of sick of me. Well, anyways, that was the end of that chapter. The next chapter, we'll be going back to the museum with Fragonard and young Stefan, who's listening to his story, and that chapter is called Sunflowers. So I'll start reading those chapters. I'll pick up again on Monday, and I think there's only 3 chapters left in the book, so Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Again, it is up on Amazon. The Kindle version I have for $2.99. Trying to get reviews, you know, trying to build up positive vibe around my book and get people interested in art history, and, you know, maybe someone will leave me a review. I don't know. That'd be cool. But share it with a friend who you think would like a story about a boy who's been trapped in a painting for over 500 years. I guess that's it for tonight. How long have I been on here? Wow. And yeah, I did not expect this tonight with all these geese. I thought I was gonna get mauled. That's what happened last time I came here. But I hope you guys have been enjoying this story so far. And I'll pick up again next week with you guys, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll end up doing it indoors or something for a night, and I can talk more. The next chapter is kind of short, so thanks for tuning in, and thanks you guys, the ones that have subscribed. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for enjoying my content. I really appreciate it. I love reciting poetry on here and talking about writing and reading from my book. You still can't see them. If you go, the video will be up tomorrow, but you can see when I started the video, a bunch of them just there was like over 100 of these geese, and they just started jumping into the river. So, all right, have a good night. Yep.